back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, what do we got this week going on in the NHL?
Oh, we got a decent amount of stuff to cover today. Before we do that, just do a couple quick things here before we hop into some NHL action. So currently, as we are recording this, we are planning in the next day or two to do a whole World Juniors wrap up. As the gold and bronze medal games will take place tomorrow. So we'll kind of do a whole wrap up of the tournament in itself, but I think it'd be a good idea if we just quickly look at the games and give out our predictions for how we think they're going to go.
All right, sure.
So the bronze medal game is between Czechia and Finland, and the gold medal game is taking place afterwards between the United States and Sweden. So what are your initial thoughts on those games? Who do you think's coming out on top?
I'm definitely taking Czechia in the bronze medal game. I know before I said they had a decent chance against Canada. I also said I didn't really think they were going to beat Canada, but they had a chance and they took it. So I definitely think they're going to beat Finland. The gold medal game feels a bit harder to call, but I think I'm going to have to take America in this one.
Okay, so I'm the exact opposite. I think Finland and Sweden are going to come out on top in those two games.
Oh, okay, all right.
But yeah, we're not going to dive too far into it because we're going to kind of do a whole wrap up of the tournament because there's a lot of stuff we haven't covered on it that we don't have time for today. So we'll make sure to cover all that. So I'll be interested to see how our predictions come out. Being on the opposite sides of both, it'll be interesting to see how those go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we both just go 1-1 or if it's 2-0 on either side.
Yeah.
Especially this year, it feels really hard to call. There's been so many upsets, and all the teams have a lot of skill, and it's really just whoever wakes up on the right side of the bed that day, really.
Yeah, exactly right. Could go either way. Both going to be fantastic games, and it'll be interesting to see when it's all said and done, and we're breaking it down how it all shakes up. And then other than that, just on January 1st was the very first ever game of the Professional Women's Hockey League that took place. So that was kind of a cool moment. First game was between New York and Toronto, which resulted in New York winning that game 4-0. Honestly, it's actually, I mean, it's good though. Like I like the way that they're doing it.
Really good. Oh my god! Like
Yeah.
there is like by the rules not supposed to be hitting. There was a lot of freaking hitting in that game.
Yeah.
Like
There was quite a bit.
There were shoulders getting thrown all over the place. So it was really fun to watch. I absolutely love their they have a separate rule book, and among a few other things, if you score on the penalty kill, that gets rid of the other team's power play.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really cool idea.
I like it. I just hope the NHL never brings it over. And then also the other thing, the thing I do like is they're doing the 3-2-1-0 point system, which I think is quite. I quite like that. That's something I would be okay with the NHL bringing in. I don't think they ever will. I think they're, or at least not within the foreseeable future, at least.
Yeah, I'd like them to, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good to see that the league is now underway. They're getting a great turnout from the people. Like they're filling the crowd. It's a great atmosphere there. So it looks like some big things are to come for that league, and it's going to be very exciting to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and this definitely isn't the first time that people have tried to put together a professional women's league in North America, but this is the first time that I've seen this much outward support, not just from fans, but from like a lot of players. Like, there's so many players that are openly like, "This is awesome! I can't wait to see this."
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
that's good
exactly.
to see as well.
For sure, yeah. But other than that, that was just kind of just wanted to touch on those two things outside of the NHL. Now we can
I
dive into
actually
some
do have
NHL
one
action.
more. I do have one more
Okay.
thing outside the NHL.
Okay.
Ex NHL player Nick Ritchie. I don't know if you saw, but he was given an 8-game suspension for quote violent conduct
Yeah, I
in
did see
the
that.
Finnish league, and it it was pretty bad. Like
Yeah.
he hit a dude in the corner, and honestly, the hit was fine, I think. But
Yeah.
the guy went down to the ice, and they just kept shoving the dude in the back of the head, and like it just looked really dangerous. It looked really stupid. Uh, I don't
Yeah.
know. That guy must have said something to make him lose his marbles like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Something must, I mean, like, there's no justifying what he did, but like something had to have happened previously in the play or previously in the game to do that. Cause like we've seen Nick Ritchie in NHL, like he's not the type of guy to go out there and just purposely try to injure someone and pull something like that. So again, not giving him a pass for what he did, but there had to have been something that happened previously in the game to lead up to that.
yeah, you're you're at least kind of hoping so. Like it sounds weird to say, but you hope he didn't just like for no reason do it.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it sounded like the other guy was fine. It sounded like he was okay. So there's
Yeah,
at
I
least
didn't
that.
hear anything of him being injured or like out long term or anything. So
No,
thankfully he was
I
able
don't think
to.
he was injured. I think it was just a potentially dangerous play. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
but
So
I believe
fuck
that's
Nick
all the
Ritchie for that
outside.
one.
Yeah, I believe that's it for outside the NHL.
What a crazy turnaround for him. He's gets thrown out there in the shootout with the Flame season on the line to now taking 8-game suspensions in the Finnish league. Like, oof.
Yeah, that's tough. Within a year.
Not only that, the Spangler Cup is currently. Actually, I don't even know if it's currently going on still right now. I haven't heard much about it lately. But like, he didn't even get offered to go play for Canada in that. So that's also a big slap in the face for him as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought he would be a slam dunk to be on that team, but nope, I guess not.
Nope.
What do we got next? What do you want to dive into? Because we got a lot here, so we can go in order. We can kind of
I
jump
feel like
around.
we could probably just go top down for the most of these.
Top down sounds that works for me. You can cover this one because this is your boy here, your guy, your
My
best friend.
guy.
We'll be talking about.
Oh yeah. During a media availability, John Tortorella was talking about coaching his 1500th NHL game. Congrats to him on that. Um, but he had a really good quote where he just said to the media guys, I like being with the athletes. I like being in that locker room. Everything else about the game, I can't stand. I can't stand being out here with you guys. That part being directed at all the media people in attendance. And then afterwards, he asked, like, "Can I go now?" Like he was very much fulfilling his contractual obligation to talk to them, and he was letting them know it.
Yeah,
So
and that's the
that
best
was
part
that
is
was
like
pretty funny.
he's not even kidding,
Yeah,
which makes it like that much better.
yeah, and he's not even like, it's nothing personal against any one of you guys. It's just I don't like this. Can I go?
Yeah.
Which
Well,
we have
and
all been there.
when reporters now they know Tortorella, they know what he's about, so that they go in with a mission to hammer him with the questions to really dig in there and get a reaction out of him. Like you can like just watching the way that a lot of these reporters talk to uh, other coaches or players versus Tortorella. They're some of them go in there at the intention of trying to rile him up and get a good clip out of him or get a good reaction so they can get a lot of engagement on their stories and whatnot. So yeah, I can see why Torts isn't a fan of it. And good on him for just standing his ground and being like, yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, and that's such a real answer. I like being with the players. I like coaching hockey. I don't like being paraded around. That's
Yeah,
that's a very hockey player's mentality for sure.
yeah, exactly right.
Um,
Oh, this one's funny. I'll let you do this one.
this one's just tough, man.
It's so
I just
funny.
I'm hoping he's at least still getting his good money because Jack Campbell has recently lost the starting job in Bakersfield in the AHL.
Yeah,
He
that's
was the
tough.
Oilers starter, and then their backup, and then down to the AHL, and now he's not even the starter down there. Like,
Yeah, that's tough for him. I just a complete fall off. I don't yeah, like it's not even like when he was with Toronto. Like I know Toronto loved to, like suck him off and act like he's the greatest, but he wasn't. Like he was at average goalie, and I mean he still could have been at least a serviceable backup, I would think, for the Oilers. But to now go down to the AHL and you know it's not working, and now he's the backup. It's like you just got to feel like
it's rough.
there might be something more going on. Like again, we never know as players because I mean, like he's not a good goalie, but he's not a terrible goalie. Like, he's not an AHL backup goalie.
Yeah,
So
he could
hopefully,
definitely still
whatever it
play
is,
in the league. You would think so. Yeah,
yeah,
you got to wonder if something's going on. Um, yeah, I think a lot of people thought he was better than he was because after that year in Toronto, just because he was average for the most part throughout the year, except for I believe it was November. He just put up world-beating numbers in November. He had like a 960 save percentage for the month of November and average numbers
yeah,
outside of it. And I think obviously being in Toronto, you get a lot of media coverage, so everyone's kept seeing all these great numbers and he's so good. And when he kept playing like the average Joe after that, it didn't really fall back as much after all
yeah,
that media exposure. Average Joe being an average NHL caliber goaltender, obviously. So
yeah. No,
still
I
incredibly
completely agree
talented.
with that. Yeah, it's a tough situation for him. Hopefully, gets his shit figured out and can maybe find his way back to the Oilers. But like right now, that's a contract that's immovable for them. So they're in a tough situation with him moving forward now.
Yeah, that's rough. Hopefully he turns it around. Do you want to grab this next one? It involves one of your favorite teams.
Oh yes, yes, I will cover this one here. Um, as it happens every year, the NHL has their Winter Classic game that takes place on the first of every year. And this year featured the two expansion teams in the league, which I think is kind of cool, but also kind of a slap in the face to all these other teams that have yet to have one. But the Seattle Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights played, and it was actually in Seattle, which was quite cool. It was a cool atmosphere there. Everything about it was awesome, from the entrances I mean, just the game itself and the whole, TNT broadcast thing. Um, but funny enough, actually, the Seattle Kraken ended up winning that game 3-0 over the Vegas Golden Knights, which featured Joey Decord becoming the first goalie to record a shutout in the Winter Classic, which is quite impressive in itself. That's never happened before, and for a guy like Joey Decord to set that record is pretty cool.
Yeah, and he's quietly been having a really good year with Seattle as well. So
He
it's nice
has
to get a bit of a highlight from that game.
Yeah, he's helped their goaltender situation that they're in because it wasn't looking great for a bit, and he's definitely helped make it a little bit better for them.
Yeah. Um, what did you think of the Seattle's entrance, the
I
Kraken's?
liked it. I liked it with the fish being thrown and whatnot. I thought that was really cool and awesome.
I barely understand what the theme of it is with throwing the fish, but I absolutely loved it anyway.
Well,
Like
they have a massive fish market there.
it's just that I wasn't sure if there was like
Yeah, yeah. I
a
got
fish
to.
throwing thing or if that's some sort of tradition, but either
Yeah,
way,
no, yeah.
I thought it looked fun. It looked cool. Like I saw some people complain about it online, but like I don't know. It just seems like people yelling at other people having fun because they're not having fun with it. You know?
Yeah, no, yeah, I went and saw the fish market when I was in Seattle one time, and it's really cool. But the thing is like people will say that's like, and I saw people ripping on that entrance and this, but it's like, okay, the Vegas Golden Knights, like I'm just thinking of it as an example because they played them. But like the Vegas Golden Knights, just for home games, will do a whole like high school musical thing and have like a play take place on the ice and have a duel and whatnot. And it's like, and people think that's, you know, they think that's fine and they're like, oh, it's Vegas and whatnot. It's like, yeah, okay. They do that for regular season games. I think Seattle is allowed to ball out and do a cool thing for a winter classic game that, you know, many teams have yet to ever even host one. And the fact that they're getting to already, why not ball out and make it a memorable thing? Like
Yeah.
I thought it was really awesome.
People very often get on the NHL for not marketing themselves enough or not marketing themselves well, not making as big of a presentation as they can because a lot of the time you tune in and it's just kind of a hockey game, but you tune into an NBA game, you tune into a football game in the NFL. It's like this whole spectacle, you know? It's that WrestleMania style like big fucking deal that they make out of it. And
Mhm.
it's fun to see the NHL do that. So it rubs me the wrong way a little bit whenever they step out of their comfort zone to do something new, and then people are like, "Oh no, not like that."
Yeah, and if it was something that was so out there and made no sense and was just like they're doing it just for the sake of doing it, okay, I could see that that's one thing. But the fact that it was something that's a big part of Seattle and actually speaks a lot to the city itself, like I thought it was such a perfect fit to do for. And if you're like in Detroit, they throw catfish on the ice. What's so bad about them throwing fish to each other before a game? Like
Yeah,
these whoever the people, I don't know if they were actual like representatives of the NHL, or if they were maybe even people who worked at the market there. I don't know. But like for people to, make a big deal about it, it's like you're just getting angry and upset just for the sake of it. Like you've got no ground to stand on and being upset over something like that.
yeah,
So I think good on Seattle. I thought it was awesome. I thought they made it. I thought they did quite well in presenting the Winter Classic as a whole. They're really showing that hockey is growing there in Seattle, and they're making the best of the opportunities they're being given. So I give them full props for it.
yeah, yeah. Completely agree on all that.
And it's just funny seeing Vegas get shut out in a game like that. Oh, love it.
Yeah, just a
Doesn't get any
little
better
bit
than that.
feels good.
Doesn't get better than that.
Um, on the second, Steven Stamkos passed Vinny Lecavalier for most games played all time with the Tampa Bay Lightning at 1,038.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that.
So stick taps, congrats to Stammer. Um,
Which one do we want to do next?
yeah, we
Well, I
gotta
guess
grab
this next one
one
is
of
kind
them.
of a whole thing, like the whole.
Yeah, it's easy to forget, but it's mostly one thing.
Do you want to kind of break this one down, or do you want me to?
I can do this one. Um, I've read up on it and watched quite a few things on it.
Okay.
But uh, so the Minnesota Wild and the Winnipeg Jets had I believe they were two separate games against each other back to back.
Yeah.
Uh, And in the first of those two games, at one point or another in a game, Jets defenseman Brendan Dillon cross-checked Kirill Kaprizov on the Wild in the ribs, and he had to leave the game. It wasn't a super egregious cross-check. They happen fairly often, but I think it should have been at least 2 minutes. But like people calling for a suspension on that is like that's just not where the game's at right now.
Yeah.
Um, but if you want to say it should be 2 minutes, I will absolutely hear that. But either way, Kirill Kaprizov, their top scorer, is out for 1 to 2 weeks now. And the next game that they played against each other. This was reported by Mike McIntyre, who I believe is the reporter for the Minnesota Wild, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
But he reported that. I guess I should preface this part that in later in the second game, Wild forward Ryan Hartman high sticked hit Cole Perfetti right in the face off a face-off with his stick. But after the game, they told the media, Cole Perfetti told the media that Ryan Hartman flat out told him right before he did it at the face-off that I'm going to high stick you, and this is payback for the cross-check last game.
Yeah.
And Cole Perfetti told them after the game. Rick Bowness did comment that he would have done something about it during the game if he had known, but he didn't know until after the game. Rick Bowness being the Winnipeg Jets head coach. That's crazy. Like, this is kind of a crazy story. I'm surprised I'm not seeing more about it. Like, he flat out told him, hey, one of your guys did our guy dirty. I'm about to smack you in the face with a stick. Which he told him at the face-off. I don't know how far the ref is away, but first of all, the ref didn't hear it apparently. Second, the ref somehow missed the high stick. Like, if you ever get a chance to see the clip, Cole Perfetti takes a normal face-off, wins it back to his defenseman. Fucking Ryan Hartman doesn't go for the puck at all, sits there for half a second, stick goes straight up into his face. Like,
yeah, I don't know how the ref.
He doesn't try and sell it as anything else, and it's a very wild scenario to me. One other thing that is, I definitely understand it, but is very annoying watching this all unfold, is that in exchange for players agreeing to wear mics on the ice, none of the audio captured can legally be used in connection with disciplinary action from the Department of Player Safety. That was written into the CBA in 2005 with the collective bargaining agreement. So legally, they can't use that. Even though it has been confirmed, yes, they looked back at the audio and he did say it. Like, it wasn't just Cole Perfetti. They confirmed it, but legally, it can't be used for disciplinary action. So we know
which
he did
is
it.
fair.
We know he did it on purpose, but no suspension, no penalty, nothing.
Well, you can't. The penalty is one thing, but you can't suspend. You can't go out there and suspend guys because they were caught on it. Someone wearing a mic. Because first of all, if that's the case, you have to make it known to every single player on both teams going into games on who's mic'd up. And then secondly, I think you would see a lot of guys refuse to be mic'd up because,
Oh yeah, and that's exactly why it's in the CBA that they're like this. It's just used as a thing to be. It's cool to have guys mic'd up, but then the players are worried about getting caught doing something. But and obviously you can't do anything about it. But does it not look fucked up that he just high sticked a young talented forward, like probably their youngest player on their roster at the moment, right in the face for something that he had nothing to do with, and there's nothing come of it, not during the game, not after the game, nothing.
My question is, why didn't Perfetti, say something to one of his teammates? Why didn't any of the Winnipeg Jets players who saw it happen go out there and do something? Like it
shouldn't.
And I believe they.
It should be on the league or the refs. Like somebody's got to police the game.
But again, you like it's not a suspendable thing. Like guys get high sticked off face-offs all the time. So a the fine, I mean, is the most they could give him because you just can't suspend a guy because you'd be getting suspensions handed out left and right for guys getting high sticked off. But that's the thing, they
This is
can't
not
because
your
they can't
average high
use
stick.
the clip of him telling me he's doing it on purpose.
Even if they don't
So
use that,
it can't be used against him.
I like to think they could get away with the suspension without using the audio, because if you
I
watch the
think
clip,
he would
he
have.
never goes for the puck at all. The stick goes
I think
straight up into his face.
he could have gotten suspension if Perfetti didn't come out and say that he caught him mic'd up saying that. Because now if he was to get suspended, it would be a whole, well, you now you're using the audio against me when you're not allowed to. So I think if Perfetti kept his mouth shut about it, he might have gotten a suspension. But as soon as he came out and said it, that completely erased any
Yeah.
any discussion for him to be suspended. And the
Yeah.
worst they could do was dish out a fine.
Yeah. I
As for
don't
the
think
refs,
anything
like,
could be done for this at the moment. I would just like to see anything from the league. I don't even know if they've like really even acknowledged its existence for most of this, but I would just love to see them take any step forward to be like, we're going to do something to make sure this doesn't happen again.
I don't think you can though. Like, what can you? There's not much they can do to prevent players from. And this is like the first time we've ever heard of something like this. Like, it's not going to become a common trend in the NHL. Like, it's
I
Ryan Hartman's
definitely
his
think this is the
own.
first time we've heard of it. I don't think this is even close to the
Well,
first
yeah,
time it's
yeah.
happened.
It's the yeah. No, the I mean, in the fact of a guy actually like telling someone.
Yeah.
But I mean, like again, there's not much the league can do. Like I said, I feel like Hartman probably would have got a suspension if it wasn't made clear that he was caught on the mic saying that. Like we've seen guys before get a 1 game suspension or something off a face off if they purposely do something. Like we've seen it happen before. I'm just really shocked that the refs missed it because like the face off is the focal
He,
point of what's happening in the game right now.
and
And
he's standing
I
right
don't get
there the
how
whole
both.
time. Like,
Well, the linesman can't call it, but both refs like are watching the face off. So I'm not sure how both refs missed that. Like
yeah.
I'm just blown away that both
Well, even
refs
if a
missed
linesman
that.
can't call it, surely if a linesman, hears something worthy of a gross misconduct or something, they can tell the ref to call it, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure if the linesman heard it, they would have. My assumption is that the linesman probably didn't hear it because I don't
Yeah.
know if it was like as they were going up to the face off, like they were skating up to it, or if they were at
I
the
think it was
dot and he
kind
said
of
it. Like
I think it was
I'm
kind of
not
like
sure
when
on that.
they're in that they're like bent over kind of getting ready for it, like the the commercial breaks just ending and they're kind of getting ready for it, but like the puck is still on the ice, like the ref hasn't picked it up to do the face off yet.
Yeah,
Kind of in that weird middle ground, but either
yeah,
way,
yeah.
it's you'd love
It'll
to
just be
see if they could
interesting
take any
to.
step to try and make sure that some of these situations don't happen again. It's
I don't know if there's any way they can though. Like I'm trying to think of a realistic way, and it's just the most they can do is if it happens again, suspensions. Like
yeah.
there's not much more they can do. And like I said, the only reason he wasn't suspended probably is just because they can't use that clip against him.
Yeah.
Now that it was out there, and uh, yeah, it's a very overall weird and bizarre situation. I believe that Minnesota and Winnipeg. I mean, they're in the same division, so I'm pretty sure they have at least one more game against each other this season. So
Could
I'm
potentially play each
assuming
other in the
something.
playoffs.
Yeah, I'm assuming there will probably be something that's going to come from the next game they play. Hartman's kind of made his bed, and he's going to have to go out there and line it. Like I don't think he's going to be able to avoid. And whether it's right off the beginning of the game, it's him and a guy like Brendan Dillon fight, and then the fight's done, and that's the end of it. Or if it's a thing that progresses across the entire game, I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see how the Winnipeg Jets respond to it the next time they play.
Yeah. And one other thing I'm just going to throw in there that I forgot to mention is that um, I know a lot of people kind of think that well, the Wild have to do something. Kaprizov's out, like you have to do some sort of retaliation. In that first game, where after Brendan Dillon cross-checked him and Kaprizov was out, one I can't remember the guys on the Jets who started it, who like initiated the fight, but Brendan Dillon and somebody ended up fighting not too long later, and
Pat
not
Maroon.
uh, was it Brendan Dillon and Pat Maroon?
Yeah.
Because I know there was two fights. So Dylan and Maroon, and then there was another fight not long after that, I believe, in that game.
In that game, it was just the one. Oh no, it was
Oh, was it?
Jacob Middleton. Sorry, it was Jacob Middleton that fought Brendan Dillon.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
And then
that was the only fight in that one. I'll just pull up the other one to
I was gonna
see.
say, because I did know that Maroon fought, so maybe he probably fought at the start of the next game then.
Yeah, right off the face-off of in the first period in
Yeah.
the second game, him and Adam Lowry fought.
Yeah. So it's there was two separate fights where you're trying to get that payback. So I don't whether or not you thought it was even at that point, obviously their best player out for 1 to 2 weeks. But yeah,
Yeah,
Ryan Hartman, you can't do that.
yeah. Speaking about the Minnesota Wild, so as of right now, they are currently in a game with the Tampa Bay Lightning. The funny thing with the Minnesota Wild right now, and I think this might be like like an NHL record, or could be pretty close. So I'm just getting the full numbers here. So in the game tonight, between the entire Minnesota roster that they're suiting up,
Yeah.
it has a total cap hit of $36.48 million.
What?
They have, which includes 11 players that are making under 1 million. And this goes to where I
Wow.
think the NHL record might be, including dead cap from buyouts, being Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, and then due to all their injuries, they have a cap hit of $50.943 million not playing in this game. And that includes injuries to Jared Spurgeon, Kirill Kaprizov, Jonas Brodin, Matt Zuccarello, Philip Gustafson, Marcus Foligno,
Oh
and
my God. That's
Vinci
like
Latteri.
you just named their top 6 forwards and their top 4 D-men. Who's playing?
Yeah.
Is that why
So,
Pat Maroon started the year so hot? He's just logging 30 minutes a night.
well, no, all of these guys have been playing for the most part this season. These are a lot of recent
They are
injuries
okay.
to them, and then we obviously know the 15 million that are tied into the Parise Suter buyouts.
Yeah.
But like that's tough for Minnesota, man, to have that much money sitting on the shelf right now, and like
That's wild.
36.4 million between your, you know, your 18 skaters and your 2 goalies going into tonight. Like that's a
Yeah, no
that's
wonder
a tough
no wonder
situation for
Brock
them right
Faber
now.
has been playing like 27 minutes a night for the last couple weeks. Like
Well, and he deserves,
he's
like, in
putting
my opinion, he's their best defenseman. Like he's
yeah.
already surpassed every other defenseman they have on that team. So, and he's
Really,
only continuing to get better.
you think he's better than Spurgeon?
Oh yeah, in terms of, I mean, maybe not like what he brings offensive. Like maybe Spurgeon's offensive game is a bit better, but in terms of a, two-way game or defensive game, I would take Brock Faber in a heartbeat. He has
Interesting.
been lights out for them.
Good to know. I
So
don't
yeah, so that's tough
watch a ton
for
of Minnesota
Minnesota.
games, but yeah, that's rough. I had not heard about that. I knew they had some injuries, obviously, but nothing to that level.
Yeah, it's a tough position for them to be in.
Do you
Um,
wanna talk about the Jason Zucker news?
yeah. This is a weird one. It's a
Yeah,
weird situation. So first and foremost, we never want to prey upon injury to a player or celebrate injuries that happen to players. Obviously, But if it was ever to happen to someone, it would be Nick Cousins. But yeah, Jason Zucker has been
I mean, yeah.
suspended 3 games for his hit on Nick Cousins. And this took place after Nick Cousins dished out yet another dirty hit on Arizona Coyotes defenseman Juuso Välimäki. Välimäki was already down and in a vulnerable position. And Nick Cousins saw a green light to go in there, and he leaned in with his elbow first. He jumped up, and the principal point of contact was the head of Välimäki. Thankfully,
While
Välimäki
he's on his knees,
is okay.
like, thank God he's okay, because that could have been bad.
And then immediately after that, there was no penalty getting called. It was the refs were going to let it go once again on Nick Cousins. So Jason Zucker took it upon himself to be the sheriff out there, and it was a blindside hit. It was a dirty hit on Nick Cousins. Not knocked him out. It was actually kind of a scary situation. You can see in one of the replays, you can see Nick Cousins, his left hand, his glove did come off, and you could see the shakiness, and like he wasn't able to control it, which is the clear sign of unconscious for a little bit. He does have a concussion. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to this whole situation. Like, yeah, a 3-game suspension for Jason Zucker is fair.
I think that's fair.
I think due to Nick Cousins' injury, I feel like that's the reason why he didn't get a suspension, because I still believe that what Nick Cousins did was far worse, because it was a clear intent to injure and harm a young player, whereas Jason Zucker, it wasn't near as bad. But just the result of Nick Cousins' injury is the result of Zucker's suspension. Yes. But again, this comes down to if immediately the refs blew the whistle and were calling a penalty, I think Zucker might have went in there and maybe just wanted to fight him or something.
I was going to say, if the whistle was blown, Zucker would have thrown his gloves down and fought Cousins. Yeah. But since the play was still going, he was like, I'm going to go plaster this dude on the boards. Like,
yeah, and it was just unfortunate the way Cousins
ball again.
Yeah, and it was just unfortunate the way Cousins hit the glass, and that's like ultimately what knocked him out. But again, yeah, it's just if the refs are going to refuse to call Nick Cousins on penalties for his dirty hits, this stuff is going to keep happening over and over again. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, concussions are a very serious thing. I hope Nick Cousins is okay. Hopefully he, gets his shit together. Probably not, because this is just the type of player he is.
Yeah, I hope the concussion sucks just enough that he goes, maybe I don't want to do this to anybody else,
Yeah, because like he could have taken Välimäki out for the entire season. Like that was one of the most dangerous hits you can do.
And
what he did to Gabranson.
He didn't fall down right before the hit. He was on his knees for like a good 2 to 3 seconds, sliding over to the boards, and then the whole way Nick Cousins, all he saw was beam this dude in the head.
So, yeah, Nick Cousins went in with the full intent of, I see a player in a vulnerable position, I'm going to light him up. And that's exactly what he did. So I'm not even going to be like
the Arizona Coyotes. Like,
yeah.
Jeez.
Like, I'm not even going to sit there and be like, oh, bad on Zucker. You know what? At the end of the day, he's out there. He was brought in to be a leader for these young guys, protect them. That's exactly what he did. And again, I think if the refs were calling a penalty on Cousins, Zucker wouldn't do something like that because he wouldn't want to hinder his team. He would be like, you know what? Let's just fight.
Instigating and a fighting. But
yeah,
no, I don't think Nick Cousins would have a concussion unless Zucker really tagged him in the fight. I think it just would have been a fight, and that would have been it. But
yeah, so you know what? I gotta again. It's one of the very, very few times we say this when a player gets suspended. But props to Jason Zucker there, because that's yeah. I like what he. I mean, he could have gone about it a better way. But
I don't want to condone that, but also like you got to stick up for the guys, and it was Like, I think Valimaki's fairly young too, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the young guys on the Coyotes, and like he's trying to protect them, and
If anything,
it's
it's a bad look on the refs more than anyone.
absolutely every single time something like this happens, it just makes the refs of the NHL look like more and more of a joke. Like, when was the last time we went a weekly podcast without mentioning at least two separate situations like this? Like, it's kind of goofy how often we're talking about, man, this guy got high stick, this guy got checked from behind right into the boards, this guy got hit while down, run behind the net, and like what's the worst call on the play for any of those? 2 minutes for charging? Like
Yeah.
they
Oh,
they got to
yo,
call something.
the Athletics got to chill. They
Who
got
are
to
they doing?
stop with these. I just got a notification from them. And you know how when you get a notification, like it'll it'll only show what can fit into like the notification thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the rest of the headline will be left out. Um so this I think this is referring to and you know, we talked about the All-Star game before we start recording. We're going to do a whole separate episode once we've got the actual full rosters or at least players for it. So I'm assuming this is in relation to Bedard, who's going to be now the youngest player to ever play in the All-Star game. And so
Interesting.
like the notification thing just says Blackhawks 18-year-old rookie sensation edges Sabres Jeff Skinner.
Come on, man.
What a fucking weird way to word it. And that's all I can see for it. So if you're not a
I
diehard
get the
hockey
point
fan
of
and
the
you see
team.
that, like,
I get the point of saying like a team edges another one out in like a close game. It doesn't work in the same context of a play. Even if a guy barely beats him, you say like he snuck past him or something, not he edges him. Like, come on,
yeah.
man. They know what
Yeah.
they're doing. They think it's
Oh, they
funny at this
100%
point.
do. They 100% know what they're doing.
Oh god.
Um, holy shit. This is completely relevant, but I just saw it right now. Pittsburgh's beating Boston 6-5 right now. That's nuts. What a game.
It was 4-2 earlier. I was really hoping the Penguins would be able to close it out. You just fucking know Boston's taking it to OT at the minimum. God,
Yeah.
every time they lose, it's in overtime. These freaking guys, man.
Yeah.
Save some points
So
for
I think we've only
Crosby.
got a couple things left. Just one to throw out there. Lucas Dostal saved 55 of 57 shots in Anaheim's loss to Toronto the other night. Um,
Lights out.
that set an Anaheim Ducks record. I believe it's for most saves by a goalie in a single game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's actually crazy considering some of the
I gotta
goaltenders
think
they've
though, like
had.
55 is quite high though, and that relies on a lot of the opposing team like getting a lot of shots.
I
Like when
guess there's
Anaheim
just
had their good goalies, like they had a good team in front. It's not very often you would see them you know, have 50 plus shots against like that.
no, you just in my head, a record like that on a franchise, like that would, a JS Jagir or something would be up there. But
Yeah.
good for Dostal. He played really well that game.
And fucking the Toronto Sun puts out a thing saying Austin Matthews saves the day in overtime after no-name goalie vexes Maple Leafs. Like he's not a no-name
Jeez,
goalie. He's
bro,
better than any goalie Toronto's had in the last 20 years. Like,
even if he is a no-name goalie, which I don't think he is, bro, you can't say that. You're a
yeah.
freaking
I mean,
newspaper, not some
well,
not some
it's
dweeb tweeting it.
it's the Toronto Sun, and they have a history of throwing out some garbage headlines and garbage articles, and they completely leave out the fact that you know Toronto was given 5 power plays to Anaheim's 2. It took a in my opinion, I'm not even sure it was a great call, but to give uh Toronto
Toronto.
power play to tie the game, and then they won it in overtime because Austin Matthews has a great one timer. Like It's just to rag on a goalie like that. It's like, come on, man. He almost single-handedly
Unnecessarily.
just like, what would their headline have been if he shut out Toronto and had a 57 save shutout?
Honestly,
Like,
it was probably ready to be the exact same thing. Fucking Toronto gets beat. Toronto edged by no-name goalie.
yeah, Toronto gets edged by no-name goalie.
Toronto
Honestly,
edges
probably would
goalie.
be.
But
What
yeah.
else do we got here, though?
Max Pacioretty returned the other night and played a game for the Washington
Oh, he
Capitals
did
after
actually. That
almost
is
an
right.
entire year out of commission with an Achilles tear. Before that, I believe last year he had 5 games
3.
played,
I'm pretty
3
sure.
games played. He was out with an Achilles injury, came back, played 3 games for the Hurricanes, another Achilles tear, and then he's been out until the other night where he played for Washington. So good for him for sticking with it. Like, a lot of guys would tear their Achilles twice and be like, this is freaking brutal, I'm done. But he keeps coming back after injuries, and I really hope he can shake it off this time. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can only be hopeful for it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully
no,
they turn out
good
good.
on Patches for coming back, and that's a huge addition to the Capitals, who have really been struggling to score goals this year. So hopefully
Yeah,
he can, add a little bit of firepower to that team that's desperately looking for some.
yeah. Um, do you have anything you want to get to before I get into the NHL stat leaders?
I have one more thing. Yeah.
Sure.
And this is a hill I will die on. Like, I will constantly stand for this.
All right.
I am a firm believer that wins are not a goaltender stat. Like, I believe when you look at, the common thing of who should win the Vezina is always, oh, which goalie has the most wins. I don't I don't like that. I don't buy into it. And we have a perfect example in the NHL right now.
Who's that?
Um, and it actually pertains to one of the stats leaders. So currently leading the NHL in wins is Alex Georgiev. He is with 20, two ahead of the guys tied for second. Out of goalies, guess where he ranks in save percentage?
I mean, it's way too low, but it would be funny if it was 53, right?
38.
38. Okay, that's still lower than my actual guess would have been.
38th in save percentage in the league with an 898, and he's first in wins.
Yeah.
So like it's people be like, oh, he's got 20 wins, he's a good goalie. No, he's he's still like he's an above average goalie who's on a team that goes out there and wins games, 5-4 or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
he's not. And I don't watch enough Colorado games. Um, maybe it's maybe he's getting a lot of breakaways on him or 2-on-1s. But then at that point, then it's on the defenseman. But I also know that
It does sound
Avalanche
like he
fans
gets
would never
shelled
be
a
like.
decent bit.
But I know Avalanche fans would never be like, oh, it's not on Makar, Byram, Gerard. Like they love their offensive defense, and they're guys that go and put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
And that's their whole
wins are not a
strategy.
goal. Like, yeah, like wins are not a goalie stat. They're 100% a team stat that the goalie just gets labeled with.
I do enjoy keeping track of the wins for goalies, but I completely agree with the sentiment of them not being a goalie stat in that you can't say that a goalie's good because he had the most, or you can't say a goalie's bad because he doesn't have as many. Because it does depend a lot more on the overall team versus only the goaltender.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously it's to a much lesser degree, but you could make that argument for things like save percentage or goals against average because, if if you're, you know, facing 13 shots a game and you get a shutout versus, you know, Lucas Dostal saving 50 out of 50 shots, then, it's a lot different. But
Mhm.
and the quality of shot and everything also plays into it, but uh yeah, I agree with wins not really reflecting what a goalie does.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was just like, man, this is the perfect opportunity for me to really drive home my point, and not many people can say otherwise to it. One other thing, actually. Okay, well, actually, two. First one's a quick one. It's just a little bit
Go
of
for it.
a surprising one. So last night, Austin Matthews scored his 30th goal of the season, which does have him leading in goals. The crazy thing, though, is that was his first game-winning goal of the season,
Dude,
which
how
I
is
thought
that
was
possible? He's
pretty
got 30.
right. I thought that was pretty pretty interesting. That yeah, he's that was his first game-winning goal of the season,
Wow.
considering he's
I'd be surprised if you said that was his first overtime winner of the season, let alone game-winning goal. Like that's crazy.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, good. I mean, good on Matthews for finally getting one. That helps his case a little bit more for maybe the Hart down the road. Um, where was
Nylander's
the
gonna
other
make
one I
that a
had?
tough sell, though.
Yeah, yeah. That is true. And then what was the other one I had was where was it here? I just had it come back. Oh yeah. I don't know if you heard about what. It's funny enough. We're going back to Toronto and their zero goaltending scenarios. Um, so Elliot Friedman said that Toronto Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving offered several teams a sixth round pick for a goalie, to which every team declined, as Brad Treliving was hoping that one team would be desperate enough to move one. And those goalies, some of the goalies that were mentioned, he tried to acquire for a sixth round pick was Dan Vladar from the Calgary Flames, Jake Ottinger from the Montreal Canadiens, Eric Comrie from the
I'm sorry.
Buffalo
Who?
Sabres.
Oh, Jake Allen from the Canadians.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought you said Jake Ottinger, and I was like, no way, they just lowballed
no,
my
it's Jake
expectations.
Allen.
Okay.
And then Anton Forsberg from the Senators. So, like, all pretty decent goalies who can fetch way more than a sixth round pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, Brad Treliving's not the type of GM really to go out and move first round picks or whatnot. Like, he tries to get guys for the lowest value possible, which is just kind of his natural thing. He's the exact opposite of Kyle Dubas, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous to think you can go out and get a competent NHL starter in some of those guys for only a sixth round pick. Like, Brad, that ain't happening.
Yeah, I could see the argument for a Dan Vladar, but not even because of his skill level, only because of the cap situation they're in and the having Dustin Wolf in the AHL for the Flames, them wanting to bring him up uh, once Markstrom's back. If Markstrom's back, I'm not actually sure.
Yeah.
But even then, you could get more than a sixth. You could, if you really wanted to move Vladar, you turn around to any other team that needs a goalie and say, "Give me a second for Vladar," and they say, "Absolutely."
Yeah, exactly, right.
That's
But with that,
interesting.
that was the last bit of news I had.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything until we cover more World Juniors in our next episode that'll come out soon.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, I will read off some of the NHL stats leaders as of January 4th here. All right, so for points in first, second, and third, we got Nikita Kucherov with 63, Nathan McKinnon with 61, closing that gap, and Connor McDavid with 53. He is in the top three.
Yeah.
He's
Just hit
chasing down.
career point number 900. We didn't mention that as well.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to put a lot of time aside if we're talking about every time Connor McDavid reaches a career milestone.
You know what? Yeah, good point. Good point.
I mean, 900 already is wild. Um, For goals, like you said, Austin Matthews with 30. In second, Nikita Kucherov with 27. And in third, we have a tie between Sam Reinhart and Brock Besser, both with 24. For plus minus, we got in first, second, and third, we got Quinn Hughes with 26, Dylan DeMello with 25, and Josh Morrissey with 23. Actually, I have a separate tab open for this because I don't like the way ESPN categorizes their save percentage because it doesn't have a minimum games played. For a minimum of 20 games played, the leaders in save percentage are in first, we got Cam Talbot with a 925. In second, Connor Hellebuck with a 920. And in third, Connor Ingram with a also 920. So good for all those goaltenders. Putting up a 920 in Arizona, by the way, Connor Ingram. 2 points
like
on the year. This guy's got double assists.
The Coyotes aren't even a bad team though. Like I think they're still just getting memed as a bad team all the time, but like it's they're in a playoff spot. They've been playing well. Like
Yeah. No, they are a
they're a
good team
good
nowadays.
defensively built team.
You just get used to calling teams bad, you know. I'll say the same thing about Philadelphia, even though they're in the playoffs as well. There's some surprisingly good and surprisingly bad teams this year.
Yeah.
Not as predictable as often is. That's all I got for the stats.
Oh, never mind. I was looking at the wrong. I was gonna be like, oh shit, Boston sent it to overtime. No, they didn't.
You're damn
Never
right
mind.
they didn't.
But yeah, I guess that kind of wraps up everything we had for this episode here. Like we mentioned, we will be coming out with more of a whole World Juniors breakdown kind of the whole tournament because there's a lot of big moments that happen, a lot of crazy upsets, and we still got 2 more final games to be played, and then we will be able to dive into all of that. But once again, thank you to everybody for listening to another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast, our first episode of 2024. So right on. Big ups to all of you there for supporting us through this and helping us get to this moment here. We have a lot of great things planned for this year. But with that, as always, if you want to, you can join in on conversations with us over on Instagram or Twitter/X at SEU Hockey. We have been starting to get a little more active on there as of lately. So if you want to join in there, let us know what you want to talk about. If you want to shit talk us, that's fine too. We're open to any positive or negative criticism. With that, Braden, you got anything to toss in?
Nothing other than I hope Tampa Bay wins tonight against Minnesota, who is apparently paying more money for people who aren't playing for them than are playing for them tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get off to catch that game here. Thanks everybody for listening. Probably have some out for you in the next couple of days with some World Juniors content. So we'll see you then.